Hello, welcome to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. You're listening to GoingBoldMedia.com. Going Bold Media is where all the great experts are. And so go ahead and check out our website and introduce yourself to our experts. We have wonderful hosts and guests on there with a lot of information. All you have to do is just click on their information and a lot of it comes up, their links and things like that, and you can connect them directly. So we want you to be able to do that. This show here today is LinktoEXPERT Good Reads, Author's Corner. I am Cece Shatz, one of your co-hosts here. I am the Doyenne of Relationship Building, and I have my good friend here, Joanne Weiland. Joanne, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Joanne Weiland, Weiland when you can fly. I created LinktoEXPERT back in 2007 on purpose because of the fact that I felt like people like Lisa today that'll be on our show, Lisa Gruenloh, that they are brilliant. And we need to be able to share their brilliance, their insights, their expertise with the world. And the other thing you need to do is consistently and frequently be staying in front of people, because they claim that you even need to be seen 12 times before you are even credible in somebody's eyes. So, and in different ways too, you need to be seen. For an example, on blogs, on this like podcast, like Cece's shows, on the radio, on the TV, she has on 59 different networks. So can you imagine when you get on one of Cece's interviews, you get exposure on all these different, tens, even millions of people, like for an example, on Roku TV and Apple TV and different things. So that blogs, press releases, videos, everything that you're creating, just do what you can look at is what you already created and ask yourself, can I repurpose this? Because of the fact that you need that exposure. And that's why I love today's guest, Lisa Gruenloh. I'd like to bring her up because of the fact that she helps you transform into, I would call, the person you really want to be. And a lot of times you need a coach like Lisa to be able to actually guide you, lead you, because of the fact that it is scary. Let's face it, most of us want to stay where we've been because it's easier. So Lisa, we welcome you on the show. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Hello. Great to be here.
It is great having you. Well, you're the founder and the president of Purpose Journey, Inc. You're a consulting, coaching, and a training firm focused on organizational and leadership development, team effectiveness, and a stakeholder and communication, and truly wanting to engage. And so that is wonderful. And, of course, we're right there front and center with that, the wanting to engage. But, I love what you do, because there's a lot of different elements with regards to, your consulting, your coaching, and your training. So tell us a little bit about why you decided to get into this type of field, and also, maybe touch a little bit on the journaling, because I think we're going to be talking a little bit about the journaling too as we move forward.
Sure. Wow. Okay, so that's a lot. I think I think I'll start with your question about how I got into the company that I have now, Purpose Journey. I just celebrated my 15th anniversary. Oh, wow. And thank you. And so it has been a journey. I started my career actually in broadcasting. I worked in public radio and journalism early in my career. And I had a double major in government and broadcasting, and I've worked in both of those fields over the years. First part of my career is also working on Capitol Hill and doing political and issues management work.
And you went to school there too. You got 2 masters from DC.
Yeah. That was a little bit later on when I was working on the Hill in the late 90s, early 2000s. I got my first master's at American University in public communication, and just a few years ago went back and got a second master's in public administration and policy. So obviously I have a lot of interests, and it's
a lifelong learner for sure.
Yeah, that's true. And, it's been, a great thing, and, sometimes challenging, because I'm not very niche-y. I have so many interests and so many passions, and I've done a lot of things in my career. And I just really feel like everything right now in my life is culminating. Everything that I've ever done in my life and career is really culminating into kind of this next chapter. But all of that work that I did, in communications and, public policy, public affairs and engagement, led me, I ended up moving to Naples, Florida back in 2004 and began working for a company that was very, very focused on leadership development and organizational culture, which now is very common. But 20 years ago, you weren't allowed to get vulnerable in the workplace. And it just was a different environment. It was a different environment. And that job was so pivotal in my personal and professional growth and just the trajectory that I would be going on from that point. Everyone in our organization was trained in emotional intelligence, which again, at that time, that was so innovative and
Yes.
very visionary, very visionary. Time.
And can I stop you for a minute? The emotional intelligence, I know when I tell people that you're an emotional intelligence coach, they don't really know what that means. So maybe you could also hit on that.
Absolutely. And I kind of take that for granted sometimes because it has, from where it was 20 years ago, it's very much in the public domain now. But emotional intelligence is really a set of competencies. It's a set of competencies that are, I believe, absolutely critical to being successful, fulfilled, and have a sense of purpose and well-being in life, both in work and business. So it is the ability for us to be self-aware of our emotions, our feelings, how we're showing up in the world, our impact on others, having a realistic and accurate view of both our strengths and our weaknesses, so to speak. And it's also, that's the self-awareness part. It also has this element of self-management, meaning that we can emotionally manage our emotions in a productive and effective way, which leads to us having better relationships and being able to collaborate more effectively and all kinds of other amazing benefits. But it transformed my life. It transformed my life going through those initial workshops and honestly, for the first time in my life, putting that mirror up. And when we do that, right, it can be a very painful process. It's uncomfortable. And yet I also found it liberating for the first time in my life, really looking at those things inside myself that I needed to own, examine, and change. But I didn't have the tools. I didn't have the tools, the support, the resources to do that when I was in my 20s and early 30s. And it was because of that work, that was my, the reason I wanted to transition into doing the coaching work, because very quickly they put me into training opportunities. And I, at my own expense, put myself through coach training and certification. And now I'm an ICF certified emotional intelligence and executive.
And that stands for International Coaching Federation. A lot of people don't know that either.
Yes.
I'm just letting you know. I mean, a lot of
That's
listeners,
right.
You and I are so familiar with ICF, and they're a fabulous organization. I think one of the best, if not the best, coaching organizations to get certified in. But yeah, so it's International Coaching Federation. And
yes, thank you. Yeah, that is the International Coaching Federation is really the global leader. It's our professional association for coaches, and it really holds us to a high level of standards in terms of training and professional conduct. And so that was important to me to make sure that if I was going to be trained as a coach, that I wanted to really have that gold standard of credentialing.
Well, it does make a difference. And I really think a lot of people don't understand even the difference between coaching and consulting, and you do both. Could you kind of hit a little bit on that too?
Yeah, that's great, because there's coaching and consulting and mentoring and advisory, advising and counseling and therapy, right? And coaching is very specifically about honoring the client as the expert of their life. So, as a coach, I am not a therapist. I am not giving advice. My primary role is to be an exceptional listener and to ask questions that spark insights with my clients, right? Because we all really have the answers within us. That's why journaling is so great, right? Because it allows us that space, that sacred space, to examine, right, and allow for that contemplation time and that reflection time, because we have the inner wisdom within us. Most of us, though, do not pause and really take the time to go inward and do that work. And a coach can help with that process by being a thought partner and a supporter without telling. We like to say it's an ask, not tell business that we're in. Right?
Right.
We all know that when you tell somebody to do something, it's not nearly as effective, right, as when people are coming up with the answers themselves. That's true in the workplace as well, right? The best managers and leaders, they don't tell, they coach, as a manager, right?
Right.
So, and it's more inspiring and empowering to know that, yes, I do have that wisdom inside me. All I need to do is to connect with it. And that's what coaches do. They help people connect with their own inner wisdom and then act on it, right? Giving these great insights. And this is why I love the name of your show, because it's about going bolder, right? What difference does it make if you have insights and you're not acting on them? And it really takes a lot of courage to take action once you realize that you need to make a change, either in your mindset, in your relationships, in your work. It's you said that at the top of the hour, Joe, right? How hard it is for people to actually make changes because we get comfortable. It's like we want change, but we're so comfortable where things are. It's very, very difficult to move outside of the comfort zone.
Well, and not only is it hard for us to do it, but I find a lot of times people around us, whether they're our family, friends, or colleagues, when you do start to change and evolve, they get really nervous and they want you to stay the same because they're not ready to change. And they feel like they're going to lose that relationship with you because of the fact that you'll be, let's just face it, more, evolved because you have more insights. So I find that it's not always just us being afraid, but sometimes others trying to hold us back.
That's actually absolutely true. And I don't know that people necessarily do that intentionally.
Oh, I don't think they do either. I don't even think they realize they're doing it.
Yeah, I think it's a very unconscious dynamic that can happen because we get scared, right? That, oh, if that person changes and they become so successful, are they going to leave me behind? And another thing that happens is if people are trying to make positive changes, like maybe they've had some behavioral things or things that they do that hurt their relationships, but they're growing and they're changing and they're becoming more compassionate and empathetic and a better listener and all of these things. Sometimes we don't let people change. We and this is true in families, especially. Families do this to each other because, this sister or this brother, always behaved this way and they became labeled, right? We label people all the time. And when we label people, we don't give them an opportunity to grow and to change. And I think that's one of the biggest disservices that we do to each other is not allow ourselves and other people to grow.
Well, a lot of times it's because they're not doing what you're talking about doing with a coach. They're not asking the questions. They're not listening to the answers to see how you have changed, that, being the brother or the sister that always did that. Well, maybe you haven't done it for 10 years, but they haven't noticed it because they're still stuck thinking that you're still doing it. And so it is interesting. I always love that saying, I can't hear you. Your actions are too loud. Because we do have to just keep modeling it, because sometimes we can even voice it and they don't see it. And so I just think it's important to, I guess, not even to take it so serious when people don't notice that you changed. Just know that you did. And maybe you'll actually find different friends, maybe not different family, but or different colleagues, because even like I know how you are really brilliant at actually then seeing these different talents and strengths, and helping them connect and collaborate with others. And I think that is so key, because of the fact that sometimes maybe it isn't that person that you worked with for the last 10 years that's going to get you to wherever you want to go. But somebody like Lisa will introduce you to somebody that is also on that journey and would collaborate with you to get you both even higher.
Yeah, you really bring up something that is important and difficult, that sometimes we do have to, sometimes we have to completely let go of relationships. And sometimes we just have to create more healthy boundaries and distance. It's sad when that happens, but it is, to me, an important aspect of self-care, is really paying attention to, who are the people who are really genuinely supporting you and lifting you up. And by the way, are you that for other people, right? Because
you have to, because sometimes we don't even realize we're doing it too.
Absolutely. And that's, goes back to that first foundation of emotional intelligence, right? The self-awareness and self-accountability. How am I showing up? That's always my first question. When I'm feeling triggered by something, or, irritated by somebody, it's like the first thing I do is like hold the mirror up. It's like, okay, what is it in me that's having this reaction, right? And so many times, we don't take personal responsibility for our own thoughts and feelings and actions. And that really is the root of a lot of dysfunction.
Right.
Yeah. What comes to mind when you guys are talking is that, we're all in transition, right? We're all evolving. So wherever we are today is not where we were yesterday. And as we continue to grow, and I don't like to use the word change because people don't like that word, right? But if I say to them, well, you're really transitioning, you're really coming into your own, or you're walking, you're starting to walk into where you need to be, and you just keep the movement going, the momentum going. And so often they'll accept that, and so being able to change like that. But it's the reality is that if we try to stand still, it doesn't work that way.
No, and nothing is standing still, right? So we really have to get over this notion that change is bad, because change is inevitable. And it is happening so fast now. I mean, and it is uncomfortable when things change fast, without our consent. Things happen that we don't want to happen. And the more we can get comfortable with the idea and really kind of go with that flow and create change. This is where, part of my evolution has been creating my own change, right? Because we know when we're supposed to be making changes. We feel it, we sense it. There's things happen. We get the whisper, that, this relationship isn't working. This job isn't working. I'm not working, right? Something in me that needs to change. And instead of, really leaning into that and creating change, we just kind of stay in that familiar place that, is sort of comfortable. It's not really totally comfortable. It's familiar.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
And that's different. Familiar is very different from comfortable.
And maybe we can talk about familiar after. Let's talk about the familiar after the break, because I really do think that is so key for people to understand what the meaning behind that is. And maybe they'll understand more how simple it really is, more than we make it. So familiar.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think a lot of times, patterns in our lives are simply because, it's familiar, and sometimes it takes a lot of strength to be able to step out of the box, right?
Always does.
And do something totally different.
And that's why it's important to have a coach like Lisa. But so we'll talk more about that when we come back.
Yeah, definitely. So you guys make sure that you check out Lisa's website. It's purposejourney.com. That's purposejourney.com. So check out the website. All of her great information is there. You can contact her. And when we come back, we're going to talk also about journaling, how valuable it is to journal, why you should journal, those type of things. And, we've got a lot to talk about when we get back. So you guys make sure you stick around. This is LinktoEXPERT Good Reads, Author's Corner. I am Cece Shatz. I have my good friend Joanne here with me, Joanne Weiland. You're listening to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network on the goingboldmedia.com. Just check that out, goingboldmedia.com. We'll be right back. Welcome back to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. This is the goingboldmedia.com, and we are on the LinktoEXPERT Good Reads Author's Corner with my good friend Joanne Weiland. I am Cece Shatz, the Doyenne of Relationship Building. And Joanne, tell us a little bit about you.
Well, we're talking a lot about coaches and the difference between coaches, consultants, and trainers. And fortunately, Lisa's one that is multifaceted, and that's, I'm just telling you, rare, because we represent lots of different coaches, consultants, team builders, trainers, facilitators, authors, and we just call them experts, LinktoEXPERT. So it's really, to me, wonderful that we have Lisa to be able to explain even the differences, as well as we've been talking about emotional intelligence coaching and how we go within and we find, things that we maybe feel familiar with, and we continually do that without even recognizing that there's something else that could be out there. And Lisa, before the break, we were talking about, really putting a mirror up and seeing, what's going on with you, because a lot of times the things that do happen in our lives is because of the fact that's really what we're putting out more than we really want to face. So if you don't mind continuing talking about being familiar, that would be wonderful.
Sure. Well, one thing that I always stress is that, everything that we're talking about is part of the human condition. And, it doesn't make us bad people that we're not making changes that we know we need to make, or it's hard. And there, people are very complex. Everybody has challenges in their background. So, everyone is a unique person with, a very unique life experience. So none of this is a judgment. It is really an invitation and encouragement when I talk about the importance of going within and being willing to really connect with what are we really thinking. So much of our thinking and emotions are on autopilot, and oftentimes when we do pause and really pay attention to the self-talk, it doesn't feel good. So, it's much easier to just turn on Netflix or something, or distract ourselves with something else. And, I'm here to tell you from my own experience that, once you get in the habit of doing that, it is just absolutely liberating. And we know from, research that that self-exploration, through evidence-based techniques like journaling, as an example, helps our mental, emotional, and even physical well-being. Getting those thoughts and emotions out on paper, or through conversations with a coach or a therapist or, a friend, is extremely helpful, because so much of what pardon me, weighs us down is unconscious, and you have to be willing to shine a light on that and recognize that, yes, I might have some kind of initial discomfort when I start that process, but very, very quickly, you'll notice how much of a relief it is to express things without judgment. Right? Because so often things show up in conversation or on the page, and you're like, wow, am I really that hard on myself? Or, but that's how we start that process of making change, is through that acknowledgement and having deep self-compassion for ourselves.
That's good. Yes. Yeah. It's true, because, most of the time we are doing the best we can with what we know.
Always.
And, and it really is important that we love ourselves. I mean, love others as you would, have them do unto you as you would have them. How's that go? So I can't make.
We know what you mean.
You love others as you would have them do unto you, but right. Meaning, if you're not doing it to yourself either, I mean, it's really truly a reflection of what we got to be. And I feel like if you can be more compassionate with yourself, you can be more compassionate with others, because you really do recognize, I did want to change that. Like many years ago, it seems like lifetimes ago, I was a smoker, and I didn't like being a smoker because everybody, around me that wasn't a smoker made me feel really bad. But it really, now that I knew how long and hard it was for me to quit, just as an example, when you are around other smokers, in this case, you have more compassion to know they might not want to continue to smoke, but it is really a struggle, because tobacco, for an example, is very addictive, and it doesn't have to be something like that tangible like tobacco, but it could even be just saying, like, for another weird example, but I find myself saying yeah instead of yes.
Mm.
It seems so easy. And the more I catch myself, I do my best to say, even if I said yeah already, yes. So that is interesting, because it's just implementing it into your life too, making the shift. So so tell us more about how you feel like, because I really think the other key for me anyway that I'm curious about is not only do when you're coaching these people and pulling things out of them, asking them questions, then like how do you you yourself get an aha of wow, Cece really needs to get to know Joanne
Yeah.
and can collaborate, because I was curious about that. Oh.
Yeah, I really think that is a mark of a great coach is, you're hearing things and, you're like, you get curious, right? And curiosity is the antidote to judgment, right? So if you're ever judging yourself or judging other people, it's a great time to just take a breath and pause and ask a good question.
Right.
Get curious, because we're constantly judging ourselves and other people, and that can even happen in the coaching relationship, right? So it's so important to always be willing to take a pause and just ask, wow, that's interesting, tell me more about that, right? So we start going deeper when we have something that's kind of interesting, there's something more there, right? To be willing to explore things on a deeper level. And one thing that I wanted to make sure that I mentioned about empathy and self-empathy that you were just talking about, Joe, that is one of the most important things I think that we can do for ourselves is extend ourselves empathy. That was life-changing for me about 20 years ago when I started this work, and I started first looking at my behaviors and my thoughts and how I was showing up when I was under stress and I didn't like what I saw. And through a lot of work, some counseling, some coaching, some reading, and all kinds of things, I really started understanding why I did the things that I did, why I had the automatic emotional reactions that I sometimes had to things when I was triggered. And of course, those things that they were rooted in were painful life experiences. I could have empathy for myself when I made those connections. And so now I am, even when I'm faced with somebody who is behaving badly, let's just say, I can have empathy rather than just automatically judging and reacting. I can have empathy because my first thought is, oh my gosh, where is that coming from? It's not, oh, that person is a, jerk.
Right.
Maybe it is my initial thought, but like very quickly, you know what I mean? It's like very quickly. I get to
I loved when you said, isn't that interesting? That's how I did a lot of my shifts. Instead of immediately judging somebody, I would say that to myself, isn't that interesting the way they just say ride that bike, because to me, you're supposed to be sitting on the seat, just say, and riding versus standing and having somebody else sit on the seat. And isn't that dangerous? So isn't that interesting that there's two of them can fit on one bike?
I used to use that one a lot because when I felt myself, making a judgment, that was actually a phrase that I used to neutralize, what I was thinking and feeling. It's like, okay, that's interesting. What's going on there?
Well, let's talk a little bit about journaling, because I know we don't have too much time left.
That's true. Thank you, Cece.
The value of that, and I know that we deal a lot on the Going Solo Network, a lot with those that are coming from relationship loss, and they're really challenging. They're challenging times for them, and they're trying to really step in this new world of being single, and they're not quite knowing what to do and how to do it and whatever. And journaling is one of the things that I have been told and I have suggested that I think is very helpful. So share with us, and I know that you do a lot about journaling, yeah, and you've in your lifetime. So share with us a little bit about journaling and what you do to help people with journaling.
Sure. So I'm a lifelong journaler myself. Even as a kid, back in the day, this will date me, but I used those red Big Chief writing tablets. And I was always writing, and I kept a diary, and probably, there was a time where I didn't journal very much. But then I got back to it as a young adult and have been doing it ever since as a way to, get more clarity, get all of the things going on inside of myself out so that I could observe it more neutrally. And, journaling, when you do it over time, and journaling is really, there are no rules. There are no rules to journaling, and there are all different types of ways that you can use journaling. Just, kind of doing a free flow, a stream of consciousness, just to kind of let everything out. I have used journals for many years to capture my ideas, right? Because sometimes, especially for me, it's like first thing when I wake up or when I'm in the shower on a walk, when there's no distraction, I just get these little sparks of insight or ideas. And so I use a journal to write those down. There's, forgiveness, one technique that would be very helpful to your clients, Cece, is, writing letters that you don't necessarily have to send to somebody, but writing a letter to someone who hurt you, and, just getting all of your thoughts and feelings out on paper can be extremely helpful. So what I did during the pandemic, actually, I had just finished my MPA, and the pandemic was happening. So I'm like, okay, now what? And back in 2015, I had this idea. My company is Purpose Journey. I had this idea, Purpose Journal, and publishing writing journals, and just creating more resources for my clients and just the public to make journaling more accessible to people. And so I started publishing writing journals. I've got almost 30 of them now, selling on Amazon, and it's just so creative and fun for me. It's been a real joy, putting like an actual product of meaning out into the world, right? Because so much of my work is service work.
You're a huge philanthropist. I mean, you've given away thousands of journals to needy causes, different organizations. Do you want to talk about some of the organizations that you?
Sure. Well, I do a lot of community service work. That's just kind of been part of my DNA from the time I was a teenager, really. I've always done a lot of volunteer work. And so the nonprofits I work with, and I'll give you an example. One of the partnerships I have is with David Lawrence Centers in Southwest Florida. And they are the leading provider of mental health services in Collier County, Florida. And they have, under the direction of Judge Janice Martin, they have a nationally recognized drug court where they take people who have drug offenses out of the jail and they put them in programs. They give them opportunities to go through programs that really help them to heal. Mm-hmm. And I was very drawn to that. Judge Martin saw me at a community event and I had all my journals set up and she recruited me on the spot. And I've been working with the men's group and the women's group with our drug court here in Collier County for about 1.5 years now. And part of that is everybody gets a journal. And if they're in their program long enough and they've filled up their journal, they get another one. But that just gives you one idea. And we use the journals every time we have a session. We have silent time to actually write, because a lot of people say they want a journal and they know it's a good thing, but they don't make the time for it. So we always make the time, in those sessions for journalists.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much for, helping so many, because I really do believe that is the core, getting alone, getting silent, listening, and it's priceless. So thank you for teaching so many people to do that, Lisa, all over the globe. Actually, people have been getting your journals and learning from it. And myself, as being a journaler, my hat goes off to you, because I really do believe that really can make huge shifts that we were talking about for Cece change. I'll say it out loud. But thank you for being here, and we appreciate it. Cece, is there anything else you wanted to share before we?
Yeah, are there any last words? We're going to have to probably close out the show, and it's just so marvelous, everything that you do. Or are there any last words you'd like to share with our audience today?
Oh, well, I just invite anybody to connect with me if they're interested in learning more. Mostly, I just want to encourage people to do that inner work, and just start where you are and move through the fear, and know that you're going to be more fulfilled and happy and healthy on the other side. So breaking through the fear, that's that's my big message.
Oh, absolutely. Well, of course, her website is purposejourney.com. That's purposejourney.com. So check that out. All of her information is going to be right there on our Going Bold media site. She's one of our elite guests, so all of her page will be up, all her links, everything will be there for you. You just click on it, it'll take you right there into it. Definitely journaling is a complete asset to you, because it allows you to be able to open yourself up, put it on a paper and let it go, right? So it's kind of like releasing it, letting it go. And so I think it's a very worthwhile thing to do. And I know your coaching is tremendous. And I love the idea of, the emotional, getting in touch with your emotions, because often we don't see ourselves as others sees us, other people see us. And so sometimes I think when we start having things that trigger us as we're going through and we're making through that transition, things are triggering us. Or I'm often asked, how do I stop the triggers? How do I stop doing things like that? Number one, I think journaling is definitely a tremendous asset. The other is getting a coach like yourself that can help you with starting to deal with the emotions, not only, I would say dealing with them, but also understanding them. Why are these things triggering you? Why are you experiencing and feeling the way you're feeling? And that's the only way you'll make that transition, is if you start becoming aware of what's happening to you. It's almost like an awakening, right? And so it's definitely important to do that. So again, let's connect with Lisa on purposejourney.com and start to understand what your triggers are, how you can, try to help move through those and make that transition, because it's very, very important. So we want to thank you so much for being on.
Yes, thank you for sharing your insights.
A lot of fun.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun. Well, everyone, this is LinktoEXPERT Good Reads, Author's Corner. You're listening to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network on the goingboldmedia.com. So I hope you guys will go on the website, check out Lisa's stuff, connect with us. Of course, if you'd like to have your own show, or if you'd like to make any comments to us at all, we would love to hear from you. You can reach Joanne at jweiland@linktoexpert.com. That's jweiland, WEILAND. So make sure that you connect with Joanne. If you want to connect with me, it's goingsolonetwork@gmail.com. goingsolonetwork@gmail.com. So thank you so much, everyone. We love being with you, and we'll catch you back here next time and same place, right? So we'll talk to you later. Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you. Thank you.